I decided that instead of doing the pH, which as you know takes a while, I'm going to just probably do the temperature probe first and show you that calibration. Now it comes, the Aquatronica comes with this unit here to clip on a suction cup to go onto the side of your tank. I keep these submerged. I have no problem with them being submerged. Any of the other probes, do not submerge them. I think I said it before. You need to keep them about 1 inch or 2, the wire portion neck part, at least a couple inches out of the water. And that taking into account if things even go high or something in the water level. This one I've never had a problem with it being submerged, but it's up to you. To get it on, you basically just clip this in right down onto the third one. It's pretty tight, really tight actually. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to dip this in some water, into some tank water that I took out, a sample, and I'm going to let this equalize for about a minute or so. Okay, so I have stuck it onto the side there, and it's in my beaker. As I said to you, I was going to do some demos using something very small that I could control to let you see some demonstrations. And here next to it, I have a temperature probe, which is connected to my Fluke 87 Mark V voltmeter, which is very, very accurate, extremely accurate. I do electronics basically for a living, and this is a very, very accurate meter for measuring things. And that temperature is probably spot on. If Aquatronica says that the probe is pretty much factory calibrated and is pretty accurate out of the box, so you don't necessarily need to calibrate it. But if you don't feel comfortable and you want to calibrate it, and you don't have something like this, I suggest you buy a low scale thermometer. That's basically one that'll go between a region of like 20 degrees Celsius to 27 degrees Celsius. They make thermometers like that, and they're big. They're long, so they give you a very accurate reading. Those are probably one of the most accurate things, short of using one of these digital units, or probably could even be more accurate. So let's go look at what the actual reading is on the Aquatronica. And as I said, here we're getting 27.1 degrees, and I'm going to turn off the backlight. 27.2, 27.1. Okay, well, what do you know? The Aquatronica is pretty accurate straight out of the box, as they claim. 27.5 degrees C, and I'm going to check over here. It's reading 27.2. So I'm still going to do a calibration, even though, I mean, really, you wouldn't need to, but you know, I have it, so why not just do it and show the calibration in process. So I would go into menu, go over to temperature, go to calibration, select which of the temperature probes. I only have one. Start, and I'm going to put in 27.2, and I'm going to press OK and press next, and then finalize. And I guess it takes a little time for it to adjust. And let me go to the main menu. 27.2. Okay, and check over by the meter, and showing 27.2. So it's now, temperature is now calibrated. And as you can see, those steps were pretty simple. Let me do the salinity probe next, and I can do that one real quick and get to see what that reads, because right now it's showing 0.9965. Okay, I kind of shifted things out of the way a little bit here. I have some of this Aquatronica solution here, and it's 53 ms/cm. I not even remember what that those units are again, but and somebody's going to be, of course, criticizing me for that. But I haven't used that. I know in Europe they use that measurement for salinity. So what I did was I went into the salinity here on the controller, and I changed the units back to ms/cm, and I'm going to first, I have the probe here, I have this here. Sorry for such a tight angle, but you're not going to be able to see both the screen and everything if I don't do it this way. I'm going to go into the menu, and I'm going to go over to density, and I'm going to go to calibration, and I'm going to pick this probe, I only have one, and I'm going to press, I'm going to first put the probe in to the fluid. Okay, I've opened that. Let me see if I can do this here. Okay, it's in there, and I'm going to press start on here. And I'm going to give this some time to settle down. As you can see, that is climbing. While it's settling down, let me tell you one thing. These salinity probes that Aquatronica makes, this is no company bias. I mean, I don't own stock in Aquatronica. I have no affiliation with them. I'll always say this, their salinity probes are dead on, and they last a very long time. As I said, I get about 2.5 years out of one typically, and I typically only calibrate one once every year or so. And I know Aquatronica is probably gonna not be happy when I say that, but I just have never found much reason to. Every time I check it, it's almost dead on. I used to check it like every 3 months, every 2 months, and it would be almost dead on. So I just started lengthening out the time. So I know that the salinity of the water in the beaker is about 1.24 or something like that, very close to normal seawater. I checked it with the refractometer I think yesterday before I started doing this, so, and I just took a sample of it. So it's settled now at 49.9. So I'm going to insert the value here, and this says here it's 53. So I'm going to put 53, and I'm going to press OK, and I'm going to press next. Sorry for that wobbling, and then finalize. And it's reading 53, 52.9, 53. So that's that. It's pretty much calibrated. And now I'm going to go into the measuring units. I'm going to bring this back here. It's still in the solution. Go to the measuring units. Click on it here. And I'm going to change it back to GS. Specific gravity, and 1.025. I don't even know the conversion of the offhand of the MSCM to specific gravity. So let me not say what if that's right or not. Let me now put it in to the aquarium, so I can into the beaker, so I can basically go back out, and I'm going to take out this probe, and I'm going to put it in the beaker. Sorry about that. plunged there for a second and then came back up. Yeah, which is what I was saying at the beginning, that I measured the tank with my refractometer, and it was 1.024. So it's dead on. It's dead on. So right now I have an accurate reading of the temperature in that beaker and the salinity of it. And what I will do is finish off this video and tomorrow, and calibrate the pH probe. I'm not going to mess with the redox probe, so I really don't want to uncap it, and that's honestly really the reason I don't want to uncap it sealed in a solution to preserve it, and I don't want to just uncap it just yet. So anyway, folks, I'm going to move on to the next part of this video, the pH. Hi guys, so you can see it's day 2 here, and it's actually 1 a.m. in the morning. And if you're wondering why I'm doing this at 1 a.m. in the morning, yeah, if I filmed this during regular hours, you'd hear kids running around, the TV on and everything, so I had to wait till everybody was gone to bed, and then start doing filming for a bit here. So changes since the last, I don't know, 14 hours. But you can see the salinity rose, and it's amazing how much water will evaporate in a warm climate over a period of 13-14 hours. And once your RO tops up, of course, that brings the salinity back down on a normal tank system. But it also gave me a little opportunity here, because I didn't touch on this before. If you go into the menu and I pick temperature now, I can go to plot graph, which I have selected already, and if I press the one temperature gauge I have here, you can see a graph of the temperature as it progressed through the day. So this was midnight yesterday, little over 27 degrees, and here at 2 p.m. it shot up to 28 degrees Celsius, and here it's leveled off back near 27 degrees in the water. So, and you can scroll using the arrows here, go back a day, go forward, and this is going in here now past midnight at about 1 o'clock in the morning, and you can see the temperature is still dropping. So just wanted to show you that. And you can basically, sorry, moved too many days back, you can scroll through a lot of data. I mean, probably months worth of data on this unit. It's stored on the SD card, so I guess the only limitation is the size of the SD card. And even a 1 gig card would probably be months and months or years of data. So every probe has a graph for it. If I come back out, and I really want to go back into the menu here, and I pick pH, and plot graph is already selected because it defaults to whatever function you were using. You can see the pH is pretty level over the day there. They're probably going to need to scale this up in an update, but for right now you get a rough idea here. Of course, the pH probe is not calibrated, so that information is not really all that relevant. If I come back out with menu and I go to the density or salinity, and I take a look at that, it's, well, I don't know, it's just reading it's very hard to tell there. It's just reading basically it because it's like 1.025. It's just on the one line and a little above. So unless there was some wild swing here in salinity, you're not gonna see that right now. But anyway, just thought I'd show you that. And next thing I'm gonna do is calibrate the pH probe, as I said. So to do that, first you're going to need to have your pH probe and thing ready. So I'm going to move over the camera a bit here and show you what you need to have. Okay, for a new pH probe, you don't really have to go through, or any new probe, you don't have to go through a whole bunch of cleaning. This all you normally need to do is just rinse it off with RO water and have like a paper towel, dry off the body, try to just dab a little bit around the edges here. You want to just get out as much water as you can. Don't go too far in. You just want to basically get off as much of the water as you can that might be left over from the RO, because it'll dilute the sample and the reference samples you're using if you don't do that. Now, if this was a normal probe that had been, is submerged for a month or something in salt in your sump, you would need to use a cleaner, like some form of cleaning agent, and they sell a lot of those probe cleaning agents. Basically, it's slightly acidic, which removes all the algae growth or any kind of growth that is on the probe tip, and cleans it all off. And you can also go online, and they'll show you methods of mixing your own cleaning agent using vinegar or vinegar diluted in water. So that you can look up online. For calibrating any probe, you typically need two standards, 7.01 and 10.01. Sometimes you'll see this in a 4, pH 4 and a 10. You basically want to pick samples that are closer in the range that you're going to be measuring. It'll probably give you more accuracy having two closer samples to what you're going to be measuring. I prefer the packets simply rather than buying a large bottle, because the pH will change over time, and if you don't use it within a specific amount of time, the accuracy of what's in the pouch deteriorates. So, or your larger bottle will deteriorate. So the packets basically stay fresh longer. So you can buy these in packs of like 10 of each come in a box, and that's just basically my preference on doing it. So let's go to the calibration now. Okay, before I go into the calibration mode, one of the little tricks I learned was that almost all of these pH probes calibrate with the lowest value first and then the higher value second. And what I prefer to do is, before I even go in to the calibration mode, is to put the probe into the lowest value. So I'm going to cut right here diagonal into the pouch and spread that open. The fluid is all the way down, and once you have that open a little bit, you can now take the probe and put it in to the solution. And I think, hold on here, I'm not quite into the inner plastic to open that a little bit. Okay, put it down in, all the way down, and I'm going to bring up a beaker here, and I'm going to just rest this here. And the reason I do that before I even start the calibration is because you want to have it sit in the fluid for a couple minutes well to stabilize. So when I start the calibration, it will almost already be stabilized for the 7.01. So I'm going to give this about 5 minutes, and then I'm going to move over and start the calibration. Okay, the probe has been sitting in there for about 5 minutes in the 7.01 pH fluid, and it's reading 7.08, as you can see. So possibly the calibration is not all that far off straight out of the box, but typically it's not going to be that accurate. You're going to definitely need to calibrate probes, pH probes. So the first thing I'm going to do is press menu, and I'm going to go into the pH, and I'm going to go to calibration, and I'm going to pick the one probe I have, and here you have back, reset calibration, and start. Well, I guess reset calibration is if you mess up and you need to start all over again. So I'm going to press start, and it wants the first value, and you can see here it says 1 of 2 because, as I said, there are 2 values you need when you calibrate any pH probe. So I'm going to press insert the first value, and it's 7.01. Alright, and I'm going to press OK. And what you would normally do here is let this settle for a while, but since I already have this, has already been sitting in this fluid for 5 minutes, and that's why I did it, I don't have to typically wait too long here. It'll settle right away. If I didn't do that, what you'd probably see is it fluctuating around for about 3 to 4 minutes before it started to settle. So it's pretty much going to be settled already on that value. I won't have that luxury with the upper value because I'm going to have to rinse off the probe after I take it out of that pouch with some RO water, dry it off again, and put it into the second pouch. And you do that because you don't want to contaminate the 10, the pH 10 fluid. So right now this seems pretty good to go. It's pretty settled. So I'm going to press next, and now it's waiting for me to insert the next value. So the next thing I'm going to do is go over, get the beaker, take it out, probe out, and I'm going to carry this over, get some water here, a little RO water, and rinse it. So I have a little RO water here, and I'm going to put the probe in, and I'll just make sure that there's no fluid left over from that. Rinse it a little bit, shake it around, don't bump the probe onto the glass, and when that's done you pull it out and you dry it off. And as I said, you try to just dab in gently and to get any excess water off. You can tap it a little bit sometimes here, just gently. That's a glass bulb there. Get all the water off, and when that's done you're ready to put it into the next sack, which will be the 10. Okay, so I have the 10 here, and I'm gonna cut it with the scissors again. This scissors is awfully dull. And open it. And this is always a little stubborn, but okay, it's in. And I'm going to stick it in to the 10. Rest it down. And I'm going to go over to the controller here. On the controller now, you can see It's reading 9.53. It's going to take a little bit of time to stabilize, but in the meantime I can put in the value, which that is 10.01. So I'm going to put in 10.01, press OK, and don't hit next yet. Wait until this value stabilizes, and that's going to take typically, in most cases, that'll take a couple minutes to stabilize, 5-10 minutes to stabilize. Some people do it for shorter periods of time. You can look on Aquatronica's website. They'll give a recommended time for their probes. So I'm going to let this stabilize for a little bit, and then when it does, I'll hit next, and that'll be it. Okay, it's been sitting for about 4 or 5 minutes, and basically what you're looking for is this number to stabilize, and it's pretty much stabilized at 9.56. So I know it's not going to be changing. So once I hit next, that will become the reference value for that point. And now it says finalize, and you press that, and this pH should, as you see, it's 9.99. You give it a little time, it'll probably climb up to 10, but it's very close to the 10 pH right now that it's in, even though it says 10.01. But that is just numbers that are just so ridiculously close that it's not even worth worrying about. So basically, for right now, this looks good, and I'm gonna go back to the main screen, and you can see the pH is 9.99 basically, and I'm gonna rinse the probe a little bit, a little off camera here, and while I'm rinsing off the probe here, I am going to dry it off so as not to contaminate the 7.01 pH, and I'm going to stick it back into the bag, which is always a good thing to do, to get a reference to make sure that you got things right. It's back in the 7.01, and it should come back near the pH 7, or very close to it. But as I said, pH, it does take a few minutes sometimes to adjust. So it's closing down on roughly 7, pH 7. So that tells you that you have a good calibration right there, and it's pretty much ready to go into the tank. I mean, we could sit here and wait for it to settle, but it might take another 2-3 minutes to settle down to 7 flat. So now I guess what I'll do is I will just put it in the water that I had, some tank water that I had, and see what that's reading. But that reading might be very strange, because this beaker has been sitting with this tank water for 2 days now. No air pump, no nothing. So I don't even know what the pH state of that water would be. It was, I think, 8.2 originally, but we'll see. As you can see, it's going down 7.02 at this point, so I am going to put it into the beaker of seawater. Okay, it's in the tank water, and my best guess, it all depends. I mean, without aeration in the water, the pH can drop, but then other things can take place. So I mean, I don't know where this will settle, but as you can see, it's climbing up to 8, slowly but surely. And let me circulate it a little bit here. Just move it around in the water a bit. Speed up the process. This is when you have flow going by your probes. Simulating flow going by your probes. Yeah, and I mean, that doesn't surprise me. Without aeration, the pH is going to start to drop normally, so that's fine. And by the way, as I mentioned before, you can see that the salinity went up to 1.025 because of the evaporation. So that's basically now all three of these are calibrated. The tank temperature, the tank pH, and the salinity are all calibrated. And the redox one is just one thing. You get a vial of fluid with a certain redox number on it, and you type it in, and it may be like 500 or something, and you just put calibrate, and after it soaks in the vial of calibration fluid for a few minutes, you hit calibrate, and that's it. It's not a 2-point calibration like the pH probe. So that concludes calibrating on the Aquatronica Touch. Guys, I was just about to go to bed, and it was just killing me looking at those readings before, and so I decided to empty the beaker flask of the current water and take some water straight from my tank and just measure that, just to make sure that everything was right. As the temperature is 24.5 degrees C, pH is 8.2, and the salinity is 1.024, which is exactly what my tank is reading, pretty much. So just wanted to check that, feel more comfortable that everything is okay. Anyway, guys, sorry I can't film more of this tonight, but it's late, and I will continue this video tomorrow